another way that climbers can overdo it is by cramming their training. And usually the way this happens is cramming, like for a weekend warrior like myself, that Thursday workout, thinking there's something more you can do in that Thursday workout that's going to make you send your project or climb better on Saturday. And really, the truth is, if there's one thing you can do on that Thursday to help you climb better Saturday, it would probably be just to take a rest day. Yeah. But not many climbers are, assuming Friday's a rest day, not many climbers want to take 2 complete rest days. But that doesn't mean it wouldn't be the most effective thing to do. Now, I often will do a light session on a Thursday, especially if I can do it early in the day, and then get recovery started, and then really be all about sleep and nutrition leading up to that weekend trip. But just be careful if you're a weekend warrior. That Thursday, if you try to cram your training like you're studying for an exam in college at midnight the night before, the outcome's usually not very good. And in the case of cramming your training, you're just going to arrive at the crag fatigued and likely less than 100%. And, don't be surprised if you feel like on your project or on your boulders. So be careful on that. And in the context of preparing for a longer trip, like if you're doing a training block, if you have a 5 or 10 week, runway up to a longer road trip, kind of the opposite of cramming is tapering. And so, the tapering is a powerful, proven concept when you're involved in a longer training, schedule. And, whether it's, a month or 2 or 3 months, that last 7 to 10 days leading up to your road trip, you want to keep intensity high. So you want to, keep your power up, but you really want to markedly reduce the volume of your training that last 7 to 10 days. And, elite athletes in pretty much every serious competitive sport, whether it's leading up to a World Cup or leading up to the Olympics or, some important event, they are coached to have some form of a performance taper. Yeah, let's move on to number 4. And this is one that I think every listener, unfortunately, is going to deal with at some point or another, is injury. And the trap is engaging in inappropriate training while injured. Now, there are a myriad of aches and pains and tweaks and tears that climbers can succumb to. As we know, Stephen, climbing is hard on the body. And, if you climb long enough, it's not if, it's when you're going to get a tweak or injury of some sort. Some people are more injury prone than others for a variety of reasons. I mean, there's genetic factors, there's lifestyle factors, there's, previous injury history from other sports is a factor. I mean, there's many things. But the one thing that we should all pay attention to is those aches and pains and what they mean. And it's not always a simple diagnosis. Certainly, if you have an ache or pain that is getting worse, you should see a doctor and get to the bottom of it, because it might not be what you think it is. It might not be what your friend or coach is telling you it is. Some injuries are pretty straightforward, and others, like elbow pain, there can be multiple causes of elbow pain. It's not necessarily climber's elbow or tennis elbow. There can be other things going on there. So any injury that's getting worse, see a doctor. Now, if you continue to train through an injury, it's likely to get worse. So don't be surprised if you end up at a doctor. Whereas if you want to avoid this trap, when you feel those aches and pains and tweaks, is be self-aware of it, question what is going on, react, be proactive sooner than later. Oftentimes, you experience a little pain at the gym or the crag, and you just dial it back for 1 or 2 sessions, and the problem corrects itself. You reduce intensity, you reduce volume, you get a little more sleep, you eat more than you maybe have been eating, drink more than you have been drinking, and a little course correction early on can make a world of difference. And you can just totally proceed back to your normal uninjured self very, very quickly. But if you fall into this trap and you try to train through the injury and climb through the injury, whether it's a finger tweak, an elbow, a shoulder, whatnot, if you just stick your head in the sand, let's say, and hope that it goes away, Well, maybe you'll get lucky and it will, but more likely than not, it will just get worse and longer lasting, and eventually could lead to a layoff. And and then we get back to what we talked about earlier, that loss of that compounding interest, because worse than training ineffectively is being out of the game completely, where you're going backwards, which is what happens. So I'm not saying, you have an injury, you should stop training. I think, that's very old school, and it's been disproven that rest is the optimal thing for injuries. There are certainly some injuries that would demand total rest for a period of time. You break your leg whatever. But some injuries you can train around. Like if you have a twisted ankle, you could still do some hangboard training, obviously. But you probably wouldn't want to be running or bouldering and jumping off of boulders with an injured ankle. Or if you have a finger pulley tweak, you should do some rehab. You might want to do some blood flow restriction training, things that, training modalities that have been proven to expedite healing. But if you have that finger pulley tweak, the last thing you want to be doing is min edge training or max weight training or limit bouldering. That would be just likely making matters worse. Mm-hmm. So don't quit training because you're injured. Just modify your training and train in appropriate ways.
Right.
And so again, this kind of speaks to having self-awareness and maturity and discipline. And, all of these 7 mistakes I have made. So I humbly admit that, I've been a maker of these mistakes in my training past of 47 years, especially my early days where I was, not very knowledgeable and just super passionate. Today, I'm older and wiser and more knowledgeable, and so I can be a little more prudent in my actions. And so hopefully through listening to these podcasts and talking to veteran climbers and coaches, people listening can avoid the muck and mire of these various training mistakes. And, dear listener, when you feel that next pain or tweak, don't stop training. Just kind of, become more self-aware and ask yourself what is the appropriate course of action to help you get through it more quickly.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was just thinking. Like this item number 4 popped out at me because it's definitely the one that I've made all these other mistakes as well. But this one, there's 2 distinct setbacks in my climbing. Probably my biggest 2 setbacks in my climbing that were because of this. I had a minor injury that could have been, addressed, and I could have been back in action in a few weeks, and I made it way worse. And then it dragged out and became this multi-month thing where I had to take a lot of time off.